It is absolutely toasty in here. Just finished charging up at the local charger to 100%, 108 miles on the meter here, but I'm going to reset the trip meter back down to 91. Okay. Oh, come on, struggling to focus. Brand new phone as well, S9 Plus, but lots of sun coming from the side. That might be part of the problem. All right, enough of that. I need to plug that in. Right, turning on. Oh. Okay, and it is 5 o'clock, 5 past 5. I'm gonna hit all the traffic, but heading down to Glasgow for a conference tomorrow. Now, which way is going to have most traffic? Who even knows? 6 of one, half a dozen t'other probably. All right, so yeah, heading down to Glasgow for an event taking place tomorrow, and then back up, staying the night with my folks, and then heading back up to here to Aberdeen tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, I'm not really on a kind of eco run or anything. Planning to stop at Dundee and then at Stirling, and I'll probably only be half a battery by the time I get down to Glasgow, but I may just stop at a charger in Glasgow before heading to my folks, just to top up a little bit. So there's plenty of charge for the following day for getting back home. That's the plan. That's down to Dundee. So how many miles? 64.5 miles down, and just stop that. And it must have been about 20% or something, 22% maybe on the battery. So I could have actually been going, certainly the last half of the journey I was doing about 65, 70, but could have probably just done 70 all the way down actually. I was doing well, there was a bit more traffic at the start, but sort of 60-ish, 65 to begin with. Anyway, beautiful night, really nice. So just charging up here, enough to get down to Stirling, and then to Glasgow. This is quite something. This is at Lochie in Dundee, and there are 4 triple head these new eVolt rapid chargers, and thank goodness they actually work at full speed. So of course I'm on the AC, and it will be charging at full rate. It's was about 40-45 minutes or so. Of course I wasn't all the way down, but you know that's about right. So there are 4 of those, and then there are 22 kilowatt AC chargers, which are you can see behind me there, a couple of them, and so loads of because there are lots of electric taxis in Dundee, so they are using these a lot. But it's this is the way to go, definitely. Having, you know, a parking area with lots of options. This is great. So more of these, rather than just one charger. The more places around like this, and you can see the cars behind her are just doing a slower charge and a left while they're doing that, the destination charges. Yeah, so great. This is the way to go. All right, I'm gonna let the car charge. So we're up nearly at 90%. So I usually 90-ish, 90 or so will unplug and get going. The fans in the back are whirring away. The fans in the battery, and the under the bonnet has been occasionally whirring up. Just the climate control system, the heat exchanger kicking in to send some coolant back to the heat exchanger at the back there. So yeah, another few Leafs have pulled in to charge up while I've been here, taxis, and yeah, all pretty seamless. So head down to Stirling next. That's the plan. I've stopped at Stirling services, 120 miles just about, done 33 kilowatt hours of energy used, and rapid charging here. Now this is the first time I've used Ecotricity since their changes to the payment structure and all of that. So this is actually only the second time in 4.5 years that I have had to I'm going to have to have paid for my electricity. Boom. But I am an Ecotricity customer, so it's I think it's 15 pence per kilowatt hour rather than 30 pence per kilowatt hour. So that's not too bad, and it's free, which is free as in available, which is all good. So it's gonna charge up. I was down to, I can't remember what it was when I plugged in. It's been on for a couple of minutes now, so probably about 16% or something like that on the battery, and pretty much 70 all the way down. Yeah, all the way down to here. So I'm gonna go get some dinner. It's 7:50, and I've been on the road for a when did I leave? About 5, I guess. So it's 7:50 now. So time for food. We're up to 23%. It is still clicking up pretty quick. When I got to the car, so you could hear the fans whirring away, and it's 17 degrees, so it's not super hot, but you could actually feel the heat coming. You know, just the kind of a waft of heat, like if you'd had if you're in a ice car, you would feel the the heat coming from under. Unusual. So I guess that's driving a bit faster will do it to you. I have Oh yeah, not enough. Oh, that's craziness. That must be for a hangover, because I've only got 30, not even the rest of the way.
Electrical resistance, friction and moving parts, or chemical reaction.
Hang on a minute. I wonder if this is still recording, because that was coming off my phone, the audio book. Yeah, look at my little leaf. So my 99% or whatever that I had the other day, yeah, not so good on this journey, that's for sure. Ah, well, there you go. 3.6. I did have this up to over 4 when I was on the way down, but then when I picked up the speed to 70, it has subsequently come down. No surprises there. Anyway, 94%. I will just about to unplug and stop the charge. In fact, I wonder if we can just do that from the app. Whether I need to do it from the thing itself, I'm going to find out. Well, it charged up to an indicated 97%, I think. It still was clicking up pretty rapidly with 18.7 maybe kilowatt hours of energy added. 73 miles on the range. Yeah, not quite the same as the 119 it was when I last charged up, or something like that. Anyway, but very seamless. The new system on Ecotricity. Well, it's probably not new. It's just that I haven't used it in a wee while. But let me just get this ticking on. Well, yeah, this is better than it used to be. So last time I charged up here, there was only that the one e-volt charger over there that was, and it was working slow. So if I remember rightly, it was just at the 17, 18 kilowatts. So this is one of the Siemens ones, is working at full rate. You can tell because the fans at the back and at the front are whirring away, even though I was over 50% when I arrived, so it wasn't at low. And then they've got these 2 other 22 kilowatt chargers that have been put in, so that's good. Yeah, it's great. It's good to see. I've been so stuck kind of around Aberdeen, going down to Perth, occasionally down to Edinburgh. I haven't been over to Glasgow in a while in ZOE, so it's good to see how the network is of charging points is getting larger. Long may that continue. One of the places I've been regularly stopping at is the Park and Ride at Ingliston, and then taking the tram in at Edinburgh. And there's a rapid charger there, and then a how many are there? 2? Is it just 2 11 kilowatt or 22 kilowatt AC chargers, destination chargers? And they need more. So yeah, most of the time I managed to connect up, but not all the time. And so it's frustrating when you're going in for a day and you're using the Park and Ride. I mean, it's just like the ideal place for destination chargers, and they should have a whole line of them put in. And then you can, once you're back after meetings, you're straight back on the road. So last time I was down, there wasn't one. So then you get back after having been there all day doing meetings and things, and you've got to sit for half an hour at the rapid charger and then go. So that is a bit frustrating. But yeah, but it's definitely getting better, the network, which is good. So it's it's about 4 hours since I left, and from Aberdeen, and I stopped for, collectively it'd probably be about an hour and 5 minutes or something like that, an hour and 10 minutes maybe. And so just a bit under 3 hours then getting down, which would be about right. So because I had a bit of a slower start, wasn't driving so fast to begin with, we were down a week or so ago, but in the big Citroen, and I think it took us about 2 hours 40 minutes getting down, just cruising down all in one with the cruise control set at 70. So yeah, I just remember not long after I got this car, when of course the network was not nearly as good, the charging network, and oh my goodness, it took me like 7 hours or 6 hours or something like that to get home from Glasgow. It was absolutely absurd. So you really don't need to think too much about it these days. You can just jump in the car and go, which is great. Anyway, car's been absolutely fine all the way down. I dread to think what my score is doing now, but it's going to be bad. I know that. And so I'm going to charge up here, because I don't think there's anyone at home where I'm going for probably another 40 minutes or something. So I'm just going to let it charge up, and then tomorrow when I head back, I'll probably go all the way up to Perth, charge there maybe for 5-10 minutes, and then go to Dundee, get a bigger charge there, and then back up to Aberdeen. If I was being really careful, I'd be able to get from here to Dundee probably in one, but I'm just gonna 70 mile, you know, do it at that speed to get back. And so on the way down, yeah, I could have done this with a lot less time, but I kind of stuck to get something to eat at Stirling, because there's only 27-30 miles to go to Glasgow, so I could actually have just charged there for like 10 minutes and then come down. And if you were coming for a destination charge somewhere, you would have done that. So actually it would not have been that much, you know, like 40 minutes longer than taking the other car, which is fine. Right, 95%. So still charging away. It's actually really quiet here, even though there's a dual carriageway just there, but there's a big bank, kind of embankment here, and the dual carriageway, which you can kind of see for the gantry and all that, runs the other side of that, so it actually blocks most of the sound. And then on the other side behind us is the Clyde river. So yeah, there's not an awful lot of noise here, which means that because there's nothing else going on, I don't have the radio on or anything, I've just been sitting catching up on emails on the phone. You really get to hear how much is going on. Now you'd think I'm at 96%, it was kind of be slowing down. Well, it is, I'm sure the charge is slowing down, but it would kind of be getting a bit calmer. But there are all of these relays clicking and clacking away from under the bonnet. So we're not at full, like, it's not at full charge where things are just running constantly. So it's obviously just in that kind of so that's the rear fans just click back in again. So they're coming on for maybe 20 seconds at a time and then going on. Lamborghini just drove by. Go figure. Amazing. I am this is actually a new camera. A new phone just got recently, and man, it is irritating because it keeps on crashing. The camera keeps on crashing. So I'm on the selfie camera here. So I normally use the just the rear facing camera, because it was a better camera. And this has happened like 3 or 4 times now. I flipped it back round. It says camera failed. Ah! So you go back into the gallery and you've got to try and work out, oh, where does it stop? And God blimey, that's a bit of a pest. So I've flipped it around so I can see the screen, and if it does the same thing, I know. Now, of course, the temptation with the screen is you're not looking at the camera, you're looking at... So I was literally just waffling on about how I keep getting this camera failed thing. Well, that it's come up. So I don't know. Actually, it may have done it a few times when I've been trying to do video on this journey. But I think it's just done it once. And literally, as I'm waffling on, boom, it came up on the screen. So I have restarted the phone and to see if that helps. So I have no idea how far it recorded. It seems to just stick. So I did a whole bit, about 5 minutes, sitting here, and then I realized that about a minute in, it froze. All the audio is there, but there's no picture. Oi, 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 oi. So yeah, I was talking a bit about the changes to the having seen some of the documentation coming up about the new Leaf, the I can't remember what is it called, the e-Power or something like that model, but the 60 kilowatt hour version of the Leaf that will be coming up, that it does have active cooling of the battery, so that's got to be a good thing. Right there, that should be yeah, I'm looking forward to giving that car a wee try. And it's, from the stuff I saw, it was going to be, I think, the price differential was about €5,000. So with the bigger battery, that's pretty good. I wonder what the charging is going to be like. There is with the Zoe, one of the other things that has been brought up by those watching these videos as well, when I was thinking about, is it worth upgrading this car, or, you know, what really are the real life differences between having a 41 kilowatt hour, I think it is, battery, and the 22 kilowatt hour battery. Because one of the things with even if you go for the rapid charging model, so with the same motor that this one has, so it will allow you to get more than 22 kilowatts of charging, is that it's not charging at, so this one will charge about 40 kilowatts when it's at its kind of maximum, and those with the 41 kilowatt hour are only charging about 34 kilowatts, so that's quite a bit less. Now it's better than 22, so if you're on a long drive, it would make a difference that you're charging at that rate. And also, I think it ramps down the charging rate much sooner than this does. Which again, it's all, if you're doing more than one rapid charge, that would all start to add up, actually, those differences, whereas doing this, not so much. So Bjorn Nyland had I've only seen the first part of it, but had a great video where he was doing a kind of race with a Ioniq and a what is it, the Ampera or the Bolt, the Opel Chevy model, the 60 kilowatt hour battery, isn't it? And the Ioniq's about 28 or something like that. And certainly the first part of it, of course, the Bolt gets, you see, I keep calling it a Bolt because of the American side of things, but Ampera, if that's the name of it, gets a huge kind of head start because it can go much longer to begin with. But then after that, the Ioniq seems to be catching up. So I don't know, I haven't seen the same part, so I don't know how that ends. I'll probably watch that later on. But yeah, is it worth it when you can just do these? Yeah, I don't know, it's an interesting one. But it certainly makes me think, and having just had you know, over a few days done more than 120 miles with this car still at 4.5 years old. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with the battery or anything like that, so there's no point changing it, that's for sure. It's absolutely doing what we need of it, without any problems at all. I'm at 99%. It's been at 99% for a while, so it'll still be doing a bit of kind of conditioning, but the fans are still whirring in the back, which I wonder if it's doing a bit more. There's something that is definitely subtly different about the battery management system now than what I'm kind of thinking in the past they would have shut down at 99% because it would just be sort of tinkering around. But maybe there's a bit more going on now. Tesla. I've been very intrigued by what's going on at Tesla. I mean, you know, I like the Tesla cars. I think they some of the stuff, because it's cutting edge stuff, and I know, you know, folks have really got badly burned with their Tesla. That there are some things that are not, you know, they're not quite right, just in the way that the company kind of deals with some things. You know, of course, they make this whole big thing about being really good for customer service, and not all of it is. And if there's certain issues, they can really be a bit of a problem. But what I'm not sure about is just, there's been a lot of talk about the Tesla Model 3 and like the production of it, and that Tesla have really, they've made a bit of a mistake in how they're doing some of what they're doing, and in the manufacturing what they're doing, and how the manufacturing is going, and whether that you know, that's really going to come back and hurt them. There's another leaf just joined in. I saw a really good video. If I can find it, I'll put a link in the notes. But a link that was talking about kind of how Tesla operates. And so at the moment they're still in such an R&D kind of development phase that they're sucking money in hugely to do that. But that's okay, because that is just the phase that they're in as a company. And as they go through that, and you know, other car companies have had to do that in the past, but now they're so big that they can cover that, all of that R&D with all the other sales that are going on, and that's not quite the same for Tesla. But there just seems to be a bit more talk about the problems that Tesla are having in trying to meet their needs, and that they're having to ramp the price of the Model 3 up. Not that they're, you know, they're still, but they're just not producing like the really low level cars, the ones that they're not going to make a huge amount of profit on, and they're starting to introduce faster and much more expensive cars where they're going to make more money. And yeah, you wonder if that's all part of cash flow kind of situation going on there. It's a shame. I mean, I totally understand all of this. It's this whole thing about tried and tested manufacturers who know how to make cars, and they're using tried and tested technology rather than, and you know, using robots and all that sort of stuff, but knowing when it's cost effective to use that and when you need humans. And Tesla seems to have gone way towards automation, too much, and now are having to revert back to more human folks in the production, but the system's not then properly in place for it. Oh, anyway, seems awfully complicated. But because it is complicated, and the other companies have an awful lot of experience of dealing with that Tesla don't. So are paying for it, or customers are paying for it. Yeah, I hope they pull through it all. Because it's been good. What they've done has really helped push things on. So yeah, I'm hoping that happens. Yeah, otherwise, lots of other things about new, thing like Citroen are now planning to bring out the electric cars. There's a new lots of new plug-in hybrids coming. I mean, it's just things are changing so rapidly, aren't they? Which is great to see. And but still, amongst there's still a long way to go. Moving folks on. We now have outside Aberdeen this wonderful offshore wind farm, which it's not operational yet, but all the windmills are in place, and it's pretty spectacular. We were out at the beach a few days ago. It's a bit further north from the city, though you can see them from the city, and they look like they're just there, but actually they're a good few miles further up, and they're huge. Like 170 meters tall or something. I think each blade is like 90 meters or something crazy like that. That's amazing. And they can produce enough electricity for like 80,000 homes. So that is, if there's a windy day, that'll be providing probably most of the power for the city. Just from those 11, I think there's 11 windmills that are offshore. Fantastic. So yeah, so that's good to see. But some of the other changes just seem a bit slow in actually. I mean, and it's all happening. It takes time, and folks have got to get used to it, and all of that as far as EVs go, and adapting to different forms of power and how we use them. But we have a long way to go, even though we seem like we're quite far ahead in Scotland. If you think about heating houses and stuff like that, we're totally reliant on gas for most of that. If you're out rural, it's oil still. How we change that to more electric heating, underfloor heating, things like that are more efficient. There's a lot still to do. Anyway, right, enough waffling from me. I am going to be heading off shortly. Still at 99%. Fans in the back still whirring away, so it's clearly still doing something. It's just clicked over to 100%, but interesting is that the battery thing is still rumbling up. I don't think it normally does that when it hits 100%. It just stops usually. Strange. Oh well. Anyway, I'm going to unplug and head off. Okay, it is the following day, and it's another gorgeous day, beautiful day. So I had the thing I was doing today, and I'm on my way back. So I had a full charge last night to 100%, and then I've just driven up from Glasgow to Perth, and was at about 17% I think on the battery, and plugged in here. It's rapid, it is properly rapid charging. So like a few years ago, some of these here, there are 3 rapids here, 1, 2, 3 over there. We've got a Mercedes plugged in at the rapid charger, getting, what's it going to be pulling, maybe 7 kilowatts, 3 kilowatts, something, while we've got all of these chargers up here that they could be plugged into. And they are, excuse me, they are 22 kilowatt chargers, those. And sometimes I used to find, I think it was when there was only one of these rapids here, that these could be faster, because this would just be running at like 18 kilowatts. However, this is running at full speed, this one here, so that's good. All I need is enough juice to get to Dundee, and then I'm going to charge at Dundee. So I'm thinking maybe 10 minutes here, go to Dundee, half an hour charge, back up to Aberdeen, so about 40 minutes total charging time should be enough. So that's the plan. It is boiling, 25 degrees it says in the car here, and it feels it as soon as you stop, turn off the car and the air conditioning stops. Ooh, yeah, you notice the warmth. Can't complain. That's nice, really nice to have a bit of warmth there. So yeah, that's the plan. That's been 2 minutes 45, is that right? I'm trying to see the thing. And we've had nearly 2 kilowatt hours of energy go in, 1.9 yeah, kilowatt hours of energy. So leave it maybe 10 minutes. I drove at basically 70 miles an hour the whole way up here, where the speed limit permitted, and it was yeah, it was as I say, it's really hot. So I don't know if you can hear that, but I can feel the vibrations. Oh, I've just had a friendly little wasp has decided to fly in to the car. Excellent, or something. Okay, so that was 10 minutes and 7.2 kilowatt hours of energy. So up to about 47%, 48% on the battery. 34 miles it says, which should be plenty. And head on out. If I can find my way out of here. There we go. So here I am on the way home. Instead of being, you know, generous, I'm trying to cut this to the fairly close, so I'm only charging for as much as I need, which should speed things along nicely. I'm getting back up to Aberdeen. So this was this journey that once took me like 6 hours. 6.5 hours or something insane. And I should be able to do this in about 40 minutes more than it would take me in the diesel Citroen. Basically, the 150 miles, 155 miles, something like that. So that's not too bad at all. And without dawdling, just going at the limit as it allows. It's been a while since I had some of the suspension. So when that was at the beginning of the year in January, under warranty, some of the rubber, the bushes, and in fact I think it was some of the links, the roll bar, kind of all that replaced, and which transformed the car and the feel of the car. What I have noticed, so that's 6 months ago or so, is that already I could start to feel a little bit of sort of vibration coming back into the car. So it's only really noticeable like going over some of we still have quite a lot of cobbled streets in Aberdeen, which are kind of some of the back roads that you use to avoid some of the traffic. And it's sometimes starting to feel, it feels just a bit like the or something in the front suspension is just starting to get that little bit, so there's a slight kind of rattle. It's nothing like what it was, and you're still not getting any kind of big thumps and creaks and groans and all that kind of thing, but it just doesn't feel quite as tight as it did when the suspension had been redone at the start of the year. A lot of the bushes. So yeah, it does definitely feels like there's something weird, sort of premature aging of the suspension. And then in the last few weeks on Facebook, there have been quite a lot of, well, I've seen 2 at least stories, but they're folks talking about others, so I'm not quite sure how many this is, whether it is just a few, but they publicised, of front springs breaking on Zoe's. So I'm trying to remember if I've ever had a spring break before in any car I've had. I'm kind of getting a feeling I did in one, but I can't quite remember. I mean, it'd be a long time ago, so so I can't really remember. But folks talking about how it's really getting quite common these days as manufacturers are trying to bring the weight down, so everything is absolutely to a tolerance in the manufacturing. So springs are as part of that. And of course, there is quite a lot of weight, kind of disproportionate amount of weight in this car for the size of the car. Yeah, you do wonder whether there is happened to be a batch that was the steel wasn't just quite up to snuff, or whether there's something else going on there, or if it's just a fluke, just happens to be because suspension, springs do break on occasion. Reading that, I was like, because if somebody was going to have a spring break, I can imagine it would be me, with all of the horrendous roads and endless speed bumps I have to deal with day in, day out. So it does make you think, well, what would happen if you're piling down the motorway and that would happen? Well, you just keep going, don't you? Don't touch the brakes, important thing. Let the car nicely slow down on its own. I mean, I've had suspension failures before. In Citroens with when a leak in the pipework for the hydropneumatic suspension system, where generally then you've got a few minutes and then boom, the whole car comes down. Though never while driving. It has happened while I've been out, so I've kind of got stranded once, but never happened while I was actually driving, doing that. Yeah. So yes, again, slight question mark over the front suspension components on the Zoe. Fingers crossed that's not going to happen soon. Yes, I wonder if it's, you know, yeah, certain miles, or if that's has any impact. Weather conditions, who knows? Who knows? There could be a lot of variables that are at play in that. I'm heading back to Dundee now, and so it's not far between Perth and Dundee, so hence just a short charge at Perth, just to easily get me to the next stop, and mean there's a little bit less charging to be done there. And so I'm not going to go to the same place I went to on the way down with this big sort of charging park. I'm going to go to there's a Shell garage where they have, as part of the kind of program, I assume this is the Shell program, they've put in a charger in the petrol station, and which I've used a number of times now, and it's the same kind of charger as the ones, the new e-volt ones that are in the big charging park at in Dundee at Lochee. And I've used it. I've used it lots of times, and it's been fine. There was one time when I came to it, and it wouldn't receive the card. It came up with an error when saying, you know, unauthorized user or whatever it was, and it wasn't getting a signal. And I called up Charge Place Scotland, and yes, they weren't able to contact it either. It seemed to have lost its 3G, 4G signal, whatever it is. Now, I had used it earlier that day and it had been fine. So I don't know why. I kind of thought that they were going to, if you'd used a charger before, it would hold on to your credentials, so that if that situation happened, it would still allow you a charge. But it didn't, so I don't know if they have changed that. In the last few times I've been down, it's been okay again. It was just that one time. But it's quite good. But there's only one there, but I've never had to wait for it yet on the AC side. The DC side has often got taxis at it, charging up. But you're at the petrol station, so there's a toilet and there's a shop and all of that, so it's really quite convenient. So yeah, having the chargers at petrol stations, it's a good idea. And I mean, good for the garage as well, because usually if I'm there, I'd go in and get a cup of coffee and, you know, something to eat, pack of crisps or whatever. So you're using their services as well. All right, just off the main kind of stretch of dual carriageway, heading into Dundee around the ring road here, and I've still got 14 miles left on the range, so it's a few miles to the charger, and it's closer to Aberdeen. It's a bit further than the usual place to stop at, so that's nice. Though if it's you know, if it's taken, you've got to double back on yourself and that did happen that one time when it wasn't working. I had to go back into Dundee to find a charger that was working, but so that was the only thing. You could go up further to Forfar, and that's a charger I used to use a lot, but I haven't used it in ages because of speed issues with it. It used to work at full speed and then wasn't. I haven't tried it since, so I haven't used it in a long time. Unfortunately, the rapid charger that I would tend to use, that's in Aberdeen at the Asda, is the AC side is gubbed at the moment. Something's very wrong with the. I think I might have said that in the previous video. Excuse me if I'm in fact I'm sure I did now. Having said that, well, it's still not working. Did I? Oh, now I'm completely confused. The connector was all broken, so loose, you know, the kind of brass connections were all just, yeah, out in the open. The shroud had gone, so it is all wrapped up and unusable as of my last attempt to go past, and that's been weeks and weeks that hasn't been available, which is all a bit frustrating. So reliant on the 7 kilowatt chargers around, but that's usually fine. Except, well, it isn't always fine, because yeah, our local one, which is constantly having issues with one side of it going down, as that's the case again. There is a part of me that is, yeah. So I do keep up with a lot of kind of EV stuff and other technology stuff and all that kind of things. However, there's only so much time you have, and I've just, in part, been much more preoccupied in my kind of keeping up with the worldness has been more wrapped around what's going on in US politics and Brexit and all of that, in trying to find out more and researching and reading more about that. And yeah, things in the car front are changing, but we're not going to be looking for another EV for at least another couple of years. We've still got another couple of years to pay off on the other car. So it's part of me thinking, yeah, I mean, so yeah, I kind of dip in and look, seeing what's going on, but not in the same way. Like if you're looking for a car, you really, well, I do as a nerd, kind of research it and find out exactly. So by the time we are ending up looking at another car, that our circumstances will be quite different, because at that stage we'll have, in fact, it may be that our last kind of family holiday was last summer, as things sort of starting to transpire, where as a family, all 6 of us, we all went away together. So yeah, we may be downsizing on the other car at some point, and in a few years, and then, you know, there might be, at that point, there'll be a new Renault out. I mean, there'll be a whole bunch of other options that will be available at that stage. So it's going to be interesting to see. So I'm kind of just watching what's going on with a bit of interest, but it's not the same interest as in what am I going to get next, which is yeah, as I say, it gives you a different perspective on it. Not much pressure. And as I've said before, there's nothing really wrong with this car. It's just yeah. So it's should do us a good few more years, and yeah, the idea would be to kind of pass this one down as well, because it should be a relatively cheap car for younger ones to run. Fingers crossed. Okay, another roundabout, another wee stretch of road, and then should be at the petrol station, and here's hoping it is free. There was one time, I was saying that I'd never had to wait. There was one time when it was iced, and I by a big Jag XF, and I just sort of stopped there, and the guy was sitting in the car, and kind of smiled at him, and he got the hint and looked behind and pulled out and parked somewhere else. There were other parking spaces, so it didn't actually cause me any delay in charging, but yeah, you hope that there's a bit more awareness now as you see more and more cars charging up, of folks being a little bit more clued up in looking at their parking spots. Maybe not always, but I feel like I'm putting less leaflets under people's windscreen wipers than I did 3 years ago, so that's a good sign. And it is free. Excellent. So the way these chargers are designed, on the because the AC side is on the side here, it is a major pain being in the other parking slot. In fact, you've got to park at a bit of an angle in order to get it to reach to the front of the Zoe. So it's much nicer when it's free on this side to get in. Right, here's hoping this is all working. Let's get the card. Authorizing. Authorized. Good sign. And start. This is so much better the way it's laid out, much more user-friendly. And there's the click of the relays. Wait for the hum. There it goes. Ooh, it has turned off. Sometimes does this. And hopefully it will just click back in again. Let's see what it's doing. And the fans are starting to whir up. Alright. There it goes. It's off charging. Okay, I have my stay awake juice for the rest of the way, which is another, or what is it, another 67 miles or something like that, back up to Aberdeen from here. So if you're wanting to go at, you know, 70, yeah, this is the trade-off of charge all the way up, so you can just thrash up, or drive a little bit slower but not charge as much. But I was planning to be here for about half an hour for the charge here, which is fine. Yeah, these new chargers of eVolt. Now, I have been a bit critical of eVolt in the past and their chargers. Maybe not so much the chargers, but the way they've been installed and all the complications there. Let me just get a little video here. But these new ones are a much more refined design, which is really much appreciated. So like at the top here, there's a wee kind of ledge bit right at the top. Now in that there are lights, so at night time this is all illuminated with LEDs along the top. So that's great. That helps a lot, just to see what is, you know, what you're doing now an area like this. It's not so bad, it's well illuminated, but if you're in a car park or something like that that's not so well illuminated, that'd be really good. So kudos, you can see the evolution in these chargers, and they are getting a bit better. Oh, I'll close the door for a minute, but in fact it is getting pretty hot, so I'm just going to get some air blowing here as well. Yeah, so I mean, there's not an awful lot as far as life with the Zoe goes at the moment. It's just working, and as this trip has shown, you can, it's so much easier now to do longer distances, and it's all very, very doable and very easy and straightforward, much more so than it was a few years ago, which means it's not so newsworthy really, or wow, you know, you've done it. I mean, of course you can, it's just not an issue. Yeah, which is good. I mean, that's all good news. The way you want it to be going, you don't really want it still to be a complete disaster. Not that it was a complete disaster, but you'd have a lot more issues than you do now. So it's just all about filling those gaps in and building in redundancy in the system. And as more and more folks are buying electric vehicles to make sure that that happens. Yeah, there's so some of you'll know that I'm a Church of Scotland minister. We had a big debate there's an annual gathering each year. So this last year, the General Assembly, we had this huge debate about divestment from fossil fuel companies, and it got quite heated, and some very odd arguments being made in favour of staying invested in companies that you have more say if you're invested and all of that. Of course, I mean, that's all nice on the surface. I mean, the reason that you're invested in these companies is because you want to make money out of them. That's it, and they are there in order to get oil and gas out of the ground. So there is still a lot of discussion to be had on some of these wider issues in moving towards a more carbon-free energy system. We're always going to need oil for lubrication and for a manufacture of other goods, plastics and things like that. It's burning it for energy is the crazy thing. So yeah, there's a lot of the right things were being said. It was interesting by a whole spread of different folks, but still a lot of people with some dubious arguments in favor of the status quo. And yeah, so yeah, I found it quite disappointing, really. But it just shows that we're still in this whole argument of this is a process. This is not suddenly it all happens overnight. This is going to take years and years of drip, drip, drip in people's mindsets, of folks understanding that how we use energy can change, that where the energy comes from, these sources are renewable, can end up being much cheaper and safer than other forms of extracting energy out of the ground. Yeah, there's still a lot to be done. Yeah, it ain't easy, changing industries and just patterns of behavior that have now been settled for 100, 200 years. That takes a lot of work. So all of you who are relatively early adopters of EVs, and those of you that have are flagging up alternative renewables for solar panels or wind generation or whatever it is, kudos to you. Keep it going, keep talking about it, and just the more mainstream it becomes, the better, because you still get folks, as you see in America at the moment, who are arguing for just absolute crazy stuff, like energy suppliers must energy suppliers to the kind of to business and to homes must use energy that's coming from coal-fired plants or nuclear plants rather than renewable. I mean, this is bonkers. It being more expensive, but being forced to do that kind of thing, that's absolutely nuts. So there, yeah, I mean, that's all happening because money is being paid into politicians' wallets to get them to make decisions that favour those businesses. But of course, but trying to change the bigger argument that's going on amongst people so that becomes an obvious ridiculous thing. There's still work to be done there, but yeah, we will see. Okay, I'm at 57%. And I haven't even had a sip of my coffee yet. Yeah, this is charging at full speed, so we'll give it a bit more time to charge up, then the last stint home. So here's my the app, and so it's 4:07 when I plugged in. 15%, 11 miles. So we have been 27 minutes thus far, and at 91% going. So yeah, it's charging fine. That's always good to see. here. So yeah, I'm coming up to about the half hour, so it looks like it'll be around about 95% or so. I might give it another minute or two and then head off. Looks like there's gonna be a bit, I'm gonna hit traffic coming out of Dundee, but I'm on the right side of Dundee just to head straight on out, and not having to, so that's good. There'll be a bit of a delay, a few minutes, but then I'm on the road, which is always nice. Having to go slower than I anticipated because of the wind. The wind has really picked up, and I don't know if you can see the windmills in front, but we are driving straight into the wind, which wasn't an issue earlier coming across from Glasgow, but is definitely an issue coming up here. So I'm just about tallying on what the sat-nav is saying and what's on the range meter here. 21 miles, 21 miles. But yeah, well, you can see, can you see these flags as we're going by? They are whipping away. So the wind has really picked up, and we are directly going into the wind. So the turbines over here are flying around. Yeah, so that's rather put a scupper on my quickly zip up at 70 miles an hour. We'll be using about the same energy as we would have been, but if we're driving into a 20 or 30 mile an hour wind or whatever it is, then yep, it has a big impact. So I am just trying to get the balance about right between the range and distance to travel at the moment. Yep, there go the turbines, and they are pointing north. Boom, they're pointing that way, just the direction that we're heading as well. I got quite a lot of range back, so I've only got a mile to go, get back to the charger. 8 miles of range, it says. Well, it'll be a bit more than that probably now that I'm not on the motorway. Anyway, so it's always that hard thing, because you know, when you get near home, you've got this downhill stretch, so you always get a bit back. But yes, you always have this slight kind of hesitation, and then I was able to follow a truck, as you might have seen on the time lapse, for a few miles, and that made a huge difference. So that's actually from being around about same on the range, I got a few miles back there of comfort space, and yet that's all the difference it makes, is just having something in front of you to break the way through the wind, that you can do a bit of slipstreaming. It makes a massive difference, the slipstreaming, to your economy. You can see why they are trying with trucks to get them running in chains of trucks benefit from that economy. Anyway, that was all fine, so no problems getting home. It's just a bit of a bummer. I was hoping to get back a bit faster than that. However, it is 5:52 and I left at 2:30 from Glasgow. 2:25 I think it was, 2:30. So that is yeah, that's exactly what I would have thought. So it's about 3.5 hours, but with 40 minutes or so of charging time, considering going a little bit slower that last bit there. Yeah, no, but under 4 hours, 3.5 hours or so. That's all right. Road in front of me. What a blinking disaster. As you kind of swither your way around, and that's actually, I think they have actually filled in some of the worst of the holes. It's still terrible. Okay, let's see if there is anyone at the charger already. That is a yes, there is somebody just about to charge up in their Prius. So I am doomed. I will have to charge up later. In a plug-in hybrid. Yes. Oh, there's not an awful lot of space there. We'll go back up here. Uh, 294 miles or so. Come over and have a look at here. You can see a lot of energy being used. This is actually coming into Aberdeen then, and this is coming down the hill into Aberdeen. But yeah, that's no surprise there. Shame it doesn't go back further. And then, oh, no, that's not the one I'm after. This is the one I'm after. Yeah. There's the figures. And my score was pitiful. Let's come back here. Ooh, not good. Look at this. This is terrible, isn't it? Good on my anticipation, of course. That's because of very little braking. But, yeah, not so great on the old speed front. Never mind. So that's me back home after a trip to Glasgow, and nearly 300 miles, no problems, no issues with the chargers or anything like that, and a little bit longer than taking the ICE car, so maybe about 45 minutes, 50 minutes, something like that on the way back, longer, and but yeah, not a huge deal. When you, as long as you plan it in, you're absolutely fine. Yeah, so there we go, another few miles under the EV belt. Right, hope you guys are all enjoying the weather, the nice weather wherever you are, and keep on that EV driving. See you later. Bye. I had actually just washed this car before going. It is a freaking graveyard on the front now. Ah, summer.